Hello and welcome to Kelservations. I'm going to talk today about various drivers in the U.S. Well, at least the Midwest for the most part. Okay, so first thing you need to know when you go to Kansas is it's windy as all get out. You have a tiny little car, you better kiss that tiny little car goodbye because you're going right off the road into the ditch. You have a truck, you might stand a chance. If it's top heavy, you're still going to get blown over. Second thing, speed limits through a lot of Kansas on the major highways are like 75. So if your little hometown has a max speed limit of like 45 or 55 on the back roads, you're going to feel kind of like a NASCAR racer. Vroom, look out, world. I'm going 80 and it's only 5 over. Please don't run off the road because the wind is going to take you. Secondly, no one, like outside of Kansas City, nobody is ever on the road. So you basically have the road for yourself. So first of all, you're going like NASCAR speeds in comparison to what you normally go. Now there's nobody else on the road, so you're like, yeah, man, I got the whole road to myself. I'm just going to punch it. Careful because it's really hilly. So the cops hide like within the hills, and you're not going to see them until you're like right on top of them. So once you do find somebody else on the road, stay behind them, unless it's a semi. Then, just whatever. Go find a car that is going at least a decent speed, and stick behind that person. I'm not gonna lie. When I passed a couple cops going in Kansas, I was doing like 84, and they still didn't care. But, there was a couple people that came up from behind me, and they're probably pushing 100, and then the cops pulled them over. So, I think you can definitely get away with that whole 5 over rule there. I like driving in Kansas. I don't really like living there, but driving in Kansas was awesome. Nobody was ever around. The roads were open. There was never any, rush hour was you and 10 other cars. In Colorado, first of all, it's really flat until you hit the mountains, and then it's scary as all hell. If you are not from Colorado, you don't live in Colorado, you don't frequently visit there, it's scary shit. You're driving up in the mountains and, it's snowing up there when it's nice and warm on the ground, down below. And, you get some, avalanches. There's all these signs for caution, falling rocks, thanks, I'm gonna get smushed by a friggin' rock. First of all, you should have, an SUV or something with all-wheel drive. You should definitely, chain your tires in the winter. And something, that kind of freaked me out is, they have all these sharp turns and corners and stuff, and I'm sure that they're only sharp to me and not to, the actual locals. But holy Hannah, could you put up some guardrails? It's road straight down, and you're like, holy shit, I can see the lake down there. What is that little ant? Is that a moose? It's scary. Now, when you get into the bigger cities that, they're just they're on the ground by the mountains, they're not actually up in the mountains, for example, Colorado Springs. If you took all the times I have been honked at in my entire life, and you smush that into an hour, they still honked at me more. You're waiting at a stoplight, and all of a sudden it's green. Well, if you are not halfway through that intersection, by the time that light turns green, somebody is going to lay on their horn right behind you. I had my foot on the brake, and I lifted it up. My brake lights weren't on anymore. I just was on my way to pushing the gas, and apparently it wasn't fast enough, and all of a sudden, 3 different cars, I'm like, pipe down, motherfuckers, Jesus! Can you give me more than half of a second? Can I blink my eyes? And good grief. And then what's worse is, all these people are just vroom, 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 all over the friggin' place, and they're all cutting you off and stuff, and God forbid, you drive the speed limit, you're gonna get ran over, honked at, and probably backed into or something, I don't know. Colorado's scary. It's very scary. I do not like driving through Colorado. I don't like the cities. I don't appreciate being honked at. And, clearly my license plate is out of state. You'd think they'd cut me some slack. No, they're twice as hard on you. I have seen so many almost accidents, literally missed by a hair, a fraction of an inch, and people just drive on it's no big deal. They honk their horns. How about you just flip them off, draw less attention to yourself, because all of a sudden there's these horns honking because you almost hit somebody, and people are like, huh? And then there they go, because they're not paying attention and they're cutting each other off, and if you don't slam on your brakes and somebody cuts you off, you're gonna run into them. And then whose fault is it really? You weren't paying attention, but they did cut you off. I don't know. Big long story. Let the police deal with it. What is that? Colorado? Yeah, falling off mountains, sliding down mountains. Oh my God! They have runaway truck ramps! Runaway truck ramps! Semis go down the mountains, they burn out their brakes, and they, run away, and they have to like slide up this incredibly steep hill, like it's like almost straight up in the air, and it's like runaway truck ramp, next half a mile, and I'm like, oh God, there's a semi behind us. You know, like, I'm like, hurry up, Florian, we gotta get past the runaway truck ramp, what if he needs it? You know, like, that's just scary. And then, like, you know, there's a runaway truck ramp, but there's no side rail. Like, what if the runaway truck, you know, he's coming behind you, and he needs to get to that runaway truck ramp, but you're not going fast enough, and he ain't gonna speed up because it's icy out. So you have to, like, swerve out of the way. Well, now there's the oncoming cars, and instead of crashing into the side rail and just, you know, being stuck against the side rail, you're gonna drive straight off the damn cliff. What is that? People in Minnesota. I am a native Minnesotan. That's where I learned how to drive. There was a study that came out that said people in Minnesota have the worst road rage. I will agree to that because we're not like people in Colorado who are like on the horn every 3 seconds. We're like, motherfuckers, I'm going to run you over. I'm going to chase your children home from school. I'm going to find out where you live. Like, that is our road rage. It stays in the car. Occasionally we'll flick each other off. Every great once in a while somebody will roll down their window to flick you off. But for the most part, like, our road rage stays inside the car. Like, they never hear us. You know when you cut somebody off that they're just cussing you a new one. They're wishing all sorts of terrible things happen to you inside their car. But they don't use their horn. Minnesotans almost never use their horn. I mean, if you're using your horn, you're probably also flashing your lights at the same time. And it means, look out, I know I have a red light, but I'm on ice and I can't stop. And then everybody's like, oh, I'll wait. You know, like, I mean, people in Minnesota are pretty nice about driving, but, like, in Colorado, they're like, get out of the way, and people in Minnesota are like, beep, 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 I can't stop! You know, like, we're nice about our horns, and they're all, like, vicious little demons. That's Coda playing with a water bottle. She thinks that water bottles are her own personal chew toys, and she loves the noise that they make. It drives me bonkers. But whatever, she has fun with them. Anyways, Iowa. I like people in Iowa, for the most part. They never go more than like 5 over the speed limit, and they use the fast lane to go 2 miles faster than the person next to them, which kind of drives me up the wall. Dog! Anyways, and it takes 20 minutes for a semi to pass another semi, but for the most part, like, people in Kansas and people in Iowa, they have this rule, Missouri too, if you stay in the slow lane, in fact, it's Kansas law that unless you are passing, you have to stay in the right lane. And once you go around, you pass the car, and you have to get back in the right lane immediately or you're going to get pulled over. Well, in Iowa, it's not necessarily a state law. People just do it. They just, oh, I don't need to be in the fast lane. I'm not passing anybody. There's probably somebody who's going to come up behind me, even though there's nobody behind you because it's not a lot of people in that state. Or if there are, they're all in Des Moines. Anyways, so they just get right back in. You know, so, like, I'll be coming up on a car, and I can tell that I'm going faster than him, but I got a good ways till I catch up to him. He's passing a car, he gets right back over. In Minnesota, you're passing a car, and they're like, I'm just gonna chill here for a little bit. People in Minnesota, like, drive in the left lane. It's, like, the thing to do. You know, like, in the UK, you drive on the wrong side of the road. In Minnesota, you drive on the left-hand side of the road when there's 2 lanes. You know? Like, you can be passing somebody and you're like, I'm going to pass that guy 10 miles from now, so I'm just going to stay here. And you have somebody who's going like 8 miles an hour faster than you coming up behind you, and they're riding your butt, and you're like, that's cool. It's going to take me 10 miles to pass this guy. I'm going to do it. So the person in the left lane gets into the right lane, passes the person in the left lane, and gets back over into the left lane and passes that other person that the guy behind him was waiting 10 miles to pass, if you could follow that. People in Minnesota, like, they get right up on your bumper. They don't honk at you to get over. They're probably cussing you out in their car, but they just ride your bumper until you move over. And if it takes you 20 minutes to realize that they're on their bumper, that's cool. I mean, like, you don't really notice somebody riding your bumper once you've lived here long enough because it's just a normal thing. That's just what happens. You can be going 7 over the speed limit, and the person who's going 8 over the speed limit, he is now on your bumper, and he'll slow up, and then he'll go, like, 10 over, and then he'll slow up. But he's always like this close to your bumper, and you could brake check him. You could, but then you wouldn't be Minnesota nice. And it's kind of a little bit funny to make the people behind you mad. Then, when they get into the slow lane, like, people don't necessarily get super mad. Like, they're not going to sit and honk at you and then move over to the slow lane and then go past. They might give you a funny look if they have to pass you in the slow lane, but that's pretty much become, like, just a normal everyday thing. That's just something you do here. You pass the people in the left lane in the right lane, and then you get back into the left lane to continue to pass the people in the right lane. And God forbid, if a semi gets into the other line, and then you have like 5 cars behind you, everybody is cussing out that semi in their cars. And then when you pass them, like, the thing is, you are supposed to pass a semi and go, whoom. Like, that's the Minnesota thing to do. But there's always that one guy who messes everybody up. And he's like, oh, the semi was going 65 and a 70? Well, I can go 66 and a 70, and I'll get past me eventually. And everybody who wants to do 80 and a 70 is like, go in their cars, you know? And they're like, you're trying to stay calm about it. You're trying to like listen to your, like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And then you look at your clock and you're like, I have to be to work in 5 minutes, and this asshole is going 66 and a 70, and there's a semi in the other lane, so you can't even go into the right lane and pass him. It just makes everybody all sorts of mad. People in Minnesota definitely have a rush hour problem and like to cut each other off and don't like to make room for anybody. People in Iowa, when you get to Des Moines and it's rush hour, it's really easy to be like, oh, I missed my exit, I need to get over, I need to be in this lane, and somebody, like, you only gotta wait for like maybe 2 or 3 cars, and then somebody's like, oh yeah, sure, you can come in. In Minnesota, they're like, hell no, bitches, I'm gonna be this close to this guy's bumper in front of me, there's no way you're getting in, there's no way the car in front of me is letting you in, the car behind me isn't letting you in, ain't nobody gonna let you in. You're screwed. And then you have to drive like 10 extra miles to take another exit because in like the warning that gives you 3 miles for your exit, in that 3 miles, even though you were holding up your lane of traffic trying to find somebody to let you in, ain't gonna happen. Welcome to Minneapolis. Kansas, rush hour doesn't exist. When there's 10 cars on the road, you're like, everybody got off a little bit early today. It's 5 till 5. Nice. Anyway, so that's various driving in different states in the Midwest. I forgot Colorado rush hour. I pulled over and cried. Actually, I really didn't cry because my husband was driving. Well, I didn't pull over and cry. I started tearing up a little bit because I was so scared. And I told him we should pull over. And then for the rest of our honeymoon, we refused to drive out within 45 minutes of rush hour. Okay, so that is driving in different places in the Midwest. I hope you enjoyed my video. Like and subscribe to my page, and I will put out more videos like this. Have a great day!